This is episode 61 with James Swanwick.
Welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, the show that empowers you to become the hero of your life's journey. With your host, Brian Tier.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, episode 61 today, and I'm really excited to be speaking to none other than James Swanwick. Now, if you haven't heard of him, James is a motivational coach, an author, speaker, investor, former ESPN anchor on Sports Center, and the founder of the 30-day No Alcohol Challenge. Now, after returning from a trip to South America, James decided to take a month off from drinking. After completing the 30 days and experiencing better mood, focus, energy, skin, income, and more, he decided to keep going as long as he could. This became a turning point in James's life as his career took off. He landed a dream job on ESPN and has interviewed the world's leading celebrities, including Al Gore, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, and Hugh Hefner, and New York Times bestselling authors including John Gray and Keith Ferrazzi. Now, 7 years later, James is still alcohol-free and runs the 30-day No Alcohol Challenge, which helps people to take a month off of drinking to find their peak performance and evaluate their relationship with alcohol, along with its effect on their bodies. Now, in this episode, you're going to learn how to land your dream job by working for free, why James decided to quit alcohol for 30 days, the life-changing benefits he's experienced ever since. Should you start by drinking less or just quit altogether? Can you really have fun without alcohol? And lessons learned interviewing the world's most successful celebrities. Now, as always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at briantier.com/061. But for now, let's go hang out with James. Welcome back, everyone, and a big welcome to today's guest. I'm really excited to be speaking to James Swanwick. James, welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback.
Brian, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's cool having most of my guests have been from the States, and even though you live in the States, you're from Australia, so it's kind of cool having two Southern Hemisphere accents on the show. For people who aren't aware of you and what you're all about, though, why don't you fill us in and tell us a bit about your quarter life story?
Sure. Well, I'm from Brisbane, Australia. I got a job right out of high school as a newspaper reporter as a 17-year-old. And then when I was 23, I did what most Australians do at that age. They headed over to London, England for a couple of years on a work visa. And I worked for Sky Sports there, where I covered rugby and cricket. Americans don't really understand cricket, but I made a big mistake and fell in love with a British woman who dumped me and broke my heart. So I was like, you know what, I got to get out of this damn country. And I just decided I was going to head to America to see if I could make it, try and live this American dream that I'd seen on TV shows and movies all the time. So I flew into Los Angeles on September 30th, 2002. I didn't know whether I was going to turn left or right out of the airport. I ended up living in a hostel for about 90 days and 90 nights, figured out how to get a work visa, started interviewing movie stars like Jack Nicholson and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I sold those stories sort of all over the world. A few years later, I started a PR company, which was successful for 6 months, and then the financial crisis hit, and all of a sudden I was losing clients, and everything was a disaster, and I ended up losing that business. So that was my first real financial struggle. I ran away to Argentina for 6 months where I learned Spanish and ate lots of steak. And then when I came back to Los Angeles in 2010, I decided to just give a 30-day no drinking challenge a go. Loved it and ended up not touching a bit of alcohol since. And then, since I quit alcohol, I've become a Sports Center anchor on ESPN. I've created a couple of $1 million businesses with my Swannies blue light blocking glasses. I feel nice and fit and healthy, and I'm pretty in a pretty good space in Los Angeles. So a lot of highs, but also a lot of lows as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to link to the 30-day challenge page. You can see your sort of before and after photos. It's awesome to see. And just going back to when you landed in Los Angeles, and you said you were in the hostel for 90 days, and then you started interviewing celebrities. How did you kind of get in the door with that, so early on in your career?
Yeah, so I'm living in this $15 a night hostel. It was the Hermosa Beach Hostel, actually. It's about 30 minutes south of Los Angeles Airport, and sleeping in a bunk bed with a bunch of other snoring backpackers. And I ended up getting some cash work working on a job site in Bel Air. There were a couple of Australian guys there, and they, I just did some laboring work. But while I was doing that, or rather, at the end of my shift, I would literally just cold call movie studios. So I literally went old school and picked out like a phone book and called Sony Pictures, Universal, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox. And when they answered the phone, I said, "Hey, I'm a journalist. I want to interview movie stars. Who do I talk to?" And then they would put me through to the publicity department. Then I'd say, "Hi, my name's James. I'm in Los Angeles. I want to interview movie stars. How do I do it?" And only one of those publicists and one of the movie studios actually gave me the time of day. It was Sony Pictures. And a woman there called Anna Whelan invited me into the movie studio. A couple of days later, I went in, I met with her. She explained, how I could do it, effectively kind of like gave me the blueprint. And then 2 weeks later, she emailed me and said, "Hey, would you like to interview Jack Nicholson for the movie Anger Management, also starring Adam Sandler?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I would." And so literally about a week or two after that, I was in the Armitage Hotel in Beverly Hills, sitting in the penthouse suite, sitting down directly opposite Jack Nicholson, the two-time Oscar winner and the Hollywood legend. And I interviewed him. I sold the story to Loaded magazine in the United Kingdom, in England, and then photocopied the article 30 times and sent it back to the studios that didn't take my call the first time round, and said, "Look, I interviewed Jack Nicholson." And then next thing I know, I got an invitation to interview Arnold Schwarzenegger for Terminator 3, and then Jennifer Aniston for Along Came Polly, and then George Clooney for Syriana, and then Matt Damon for Stuck on You, and it just kind of started to roll from there.
Yeah, and that all started out with like a ballsy move to just email cold and see what came out of it.
Well, I mean, I didn't have much to lose except a little bit of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, what's it going to cost me? It's going to cost me like the phone card that I've bought from a US cell phone carrier. I didn't have a cell phone plan. I just had like a cell phone where you buy the minutes. So I thought I'll just find, and at that stage it was costing me like 40 cents a minute to make a call, right? So imagine I'm this sort of like down on his luck backpacker living in a hostel, and I'm like, right, I got to get on and off the call really quickly, because 40 cents a minute, if I stay on for like anything more than 5 minutes, I'm looking
go hungry.
Yeah, exactly. So it was bare bones stuff, but in the end it was pretty effective, right? Because it's all you got to do is the moment that you pick up the phone and make a call and just open your mouth is the moment that opportunity comes.
Yeah, I love that. And like I often it's the same with my podcast. I've reached out to guests who I felt are way out of my league at this stage. But now and then you'll get a yes, and you wouldn't have got that if you didn't try. And I even say to people sometimes now, if they are stuck in like a job they don't like and they're trying to do work they really enjoy, or work for a mentor of theirs, like reach out and offer to work for free for a couple of months. And that'll lead to other opportunities that open up along the way.
Well, I'll tell you this. I have 9 staff around the world now. I have a podcast producer for my podcast, The James Swanwick Show. I have virtual assistants who help me run my Swanwick Sleep business. I have people who help me build my 30-day noalcoholchallenge.com website. I got about 9 contractors all over the world working for me. 7 of those 9 all worked for me for free first before I paid them. Now they earn thousands of dollars because they reached out to me offering value first. They didn't say, "Hey, hire me," and they reached out saying, "Hey, here's what value I can give for you for free." And then I tried them out and then let them do stuff for me for free, and then I ultimately started paying them.
Yeah, if people are listening and are suddenly like, "Holy shit, I should try do this," it'll be quite interesting to hear from you as the sort of employer's point of view. Is it up to them to work for a couple of months for free and then come to you with an offer, or do they wait for the employer to see a benefit and then approach them with an offer?
Well, it's not just working for free. It's basically giving value for free. because anyone can work and do a lousy job, right? But what it is like adding value to your potential employer's life. So, for example, one guy I hired, he emailed me once and he said, "Hey, James, I really love listening to your podcast, the James Swanwick Show. I listen to it here over in Thailand." He is an American expat living in Thailand. He goes, "I really loved your show. Here's how I think you can get more listeners." And then he gave me a suggestion. And then at the end of the email, he said, "No need to reply." I was like, awesome. That's really interesting. That's great. And then 2 weeks later, he sent me another email. He's saying, "Hey, James, really love your website, jamesswanwick.com. Thanks so much for all the value you give at that site. Here's how I think you might be losing people opting in to your email list. And here's how you might make your website better." And then he gave me like 3 ideas. And then at the end, he said, "No need to reply." I was like, damn, this guy's awesome. And then he sent me another email. He forwarded me an article about Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos because he knew that I am a Denver Broncos fan. And so because he knew enough about, what interests me and what was exciting to me, he just found an article online about Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos, and he just forwarded it to me and said, "Hey, I know you don't like the Broncos. Here's an article." Right after that, I just said, "That's it. I'm calling this guy." And I scheduled a Skype call. I got on the phone with him, and then I found out that he was very good at writing emails, like creating email lists, which is a component of an online business. And I gave him I said, "Write some emails for me," and he said, "I'd love to." And then they were so good that in the end, I said, "All right, I'll bring you on. I'll just pay you a little bit. We'll go slowly, and start doing the stuff for me." And then that grew into what ultimately started getting a couple grand a month from me in the end. So there you go. It doesn't take much. Just takes a bit of thought, offering free value, and then all of a sudden you can make 20 grand a year just from sending a couple of emails offering value.
Yeah, and it's the beauty of social media, but I think people often neglect the actual potential of it, is the ability to grow real relationships rather than just post sort of shallow content. So I want to focus a lot of this interview on the alcohol stuff. And you said when you came back from Argentina, you did a 30-day challenge. What kind of what led to that, or what made you want to do that?
Well, I woke up one morning. I was actually in Austin, Texas, in 2010, and I was at the South by Southwest Festival, which is a very famous annual event. And I'd only had 2 drinks the night before. It was 2 gin and tonics, Bombay Sapphire gin and a little bit of tonic. But I woke up with this really bad hangover. I don't know what it was. It was literally only 2 drinks. And I went to an IHOP, which is an international house of pancakes right next door to the hotel that I was staying in. And I went in there and I ordered some food, and I was looking out the window, and it was a dark, overcast day, and I was hungover, and I just realized that I had some fat rolls kind of hanging over my belt. I felt like crap. I was weathered in the face. It wasn't that I was completely out of shape or completely down in the dumps. It was just that I felt really average, just blah, I'd put on a few pounds. I was operating a little bit slowly. I wasn't exercising as much as I could. And I had this routine of drinking 1 or 2 drinks a night at the end of a day. No big deal, right? You have a couple beers, or you have a glass of wine and a beer. Yeah. You go out with friends to dinner. I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't drinking excessively. I was just having 1 or 2 drinks a night. But what I realized was that when I was in that moment in that IHOP in Austin, I was like, man, I feel lousy. I got to take a break here. I'm just going to commit to taking a 30-day break from alcohol and just see how I feel, just see what happens. And so right in that moment, in that IHOP, I said, right, starting right now, I'm going to go 30 days without drinking. And Brian, after 30 days, I'd lost 13 pounds of fat. My skin started to glow and look a lot better. The wrinkles in my face disappeared. I slept better. I had more productivity. I had greater clarity. I realized I started attracting a higher caliber of friend into my life. I started running. I started kind of lifting a couple of weights, just starting to get back into that. And at the end of the 30 days, I felt so damn terrific. I said, I wonder if I can go 40 days. Let's see if I can go 40 days. And then I got to 40 days and I felt even more terrific. And then I went, I wonder if I can go 2 months. And then I just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And Brian, I haven't touched a drop of alcohol since the night before that IHOP breakfast that I had. You know, like I haven't drunk since 2010, not one sip. And it's not because I was an alcoholic and I needed to stop. It's not because, if I have one more drink again, I'm going to just become an alcoholic. It's nothing to do with that. It's just now I feel better. I look better. I make more money. I attract better quality of people into my life. I'm happier. And I just all around, my life is just transformed just from the very simple act of cutting out 1 or 2 drinks a night.
Yeah, and I think what's really eye-opening is, like you said, it wasn't like you were getting wasted every night. It was just a casual, 1 or 2 drinks. But that all adds up in the long run. And I completely relate. I got wasted now and then, but I just kind of got over it. And it sounds kind of the same. I just slowly started drinking less. And then the one day I just stopped completely. It was about 3 years ago now. And same thing here. I feel way more energetic. It wasn't like I had to stop for medical reasons or anything like that. I just feel way better now, and there's no need for me to go back to that. Do you recommend people, if they are thinking about quitting, that they go sort of cold turkey, no drinks at all, or could they benefit from slowing down over time?
Yeah. Well, look, I created this program. It's literally called the 30-Day No Alcohol Challenge. You can see it at 30daynoalcoholchallenge.com. And what I do in that program is that I tell people, listen, if you really want to reduce the amount of drinking that you do over time, just try quitting entirely for 30 days so you get a glimpse of what it feels like to be truly alcohol-free. And then after those 30 days, then you can go back to drinking if you choose. And a lot of people who do my program, they do, but they do it at a far reduced rate than when they started. So I've put thousands of people through the 30-Day No Alcohol Challenge now, and most people will quit for 30 days, and then afterwards they'll go back and they'll have the occasional drink here and there, but nothing like the frequency with which they drank beforehand. And then a lot of people also just stay quit. I've got people there who haven't drunk in 6 months, another person who hasn't drunk in a year and a half, another person who hasn't drunk in 12 months. I mean, whatever works for you, as long as drinking isn't holding you back. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, the way that worked for me was just bang, cold turkey, 30 days, right? And then it ended up going longer. That's what worked for me. Having said that, if you don't like the idea of going cold turkey for 30 days, if that doesn't appeal to you, then just start to try and reduce as much as you can. Try and just, instead of having 2 drinks a night, have 1. Instead of drinking 4 nights a week, drink 2. What I will say is this though, that relies on brute willpower, and that's proven to be pretty ineffective in humans. When you do it with other people, such as in my program, when you have accountability with a group of people who are supporting you and holding you accountable, the chances of you actually succeeding go through the roof.
Yeah, I must say, just before I quit completely, it was kind of weird. I started meeting more and more people who didn't drink. It's when I was still working in the fitness industry. And I really liked the people that I started meeting who didn't drink. And I guess it kind of changed my mindset of there are normal people who don't drink. I know Australia and South Africa both have quite a big drinking culture. But yeah, I mean, I've met so many cool people who don't drink. Yeah, and I get that a lot from people who are like, oh, if I quit drinking, then I've got to stay at home and I've got to lock myself up and I can't go out and socialize and I can't have fun and everyone's going to be judging me and everyone's going to think I'm an alcoholic because I'm going out to a party and I'm the only one not drinking. And I mean, I get that a lot, right? But here's what I'd say to that. That's ridiculous. People really don't care that you're not drinking. They don't care. You know why they don't care? Because they're too busy thinking about themselves. Because everybody is obsessed with themselves. I'm obsessed with myself. I can admit that. I'm the most important person in my life. I'm thinking about me all the time. I'm not really thinking about you for 99% of the day, right? And so, sure, you might have friends who say, go on, just have 1. Or what do you mean you're not drinking? Don't be a pussy. Or, oh, come on, let's just have some fun. Live a little.
And live a little. And it's implying that in order to have fun and in order to live a little, that you need to drink a poison. Now, that is preposterous, okay? It is preposterous. And the reason I know that it's preposterous is because I've been going out for 7 years partying without drinking a drop of alcohol. I still go to bars. I still go to restaurants. I still go to music festivals. I still go to parties. And guess what? When I walk into those events, I just commit to having the most fun out of anyone there. And I do it while sipping on soda water or water, ice, and a piece of lime or anything that's just non-alcoholic. So you don't need alcohol to have fun. You just need to have fun. And you can do that without the alcohol.
Yeah, I found that people, like, as long as you have something in your hand, people don't even really notice. So I started drinking the same as you, like water and lime and that kind of thing. And people didn't they probably thought it was vodka. If you go to a house party and they've got like red plastic cups or something, then just put soda in there and just hold the red plastic cup. No one's going to know. I mean, on the first week that I quit, that I tried this 30-day challenge, I actually had a date with a lovely woman called Andrea, and we met at the Jones Bar on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood, in Los Angeles. And I was really self-conscious about her. I didn't want her to know that I wasn't drinking, so I got there 10 minutes early, and I told the barman, "Hey, listen, I'm on a date, when the girl comes and I order drinks, can you just make sure that you don't put vodka in mine? If I say, like, give me a vodka soda, can you only make it a soda and don't put the vodka in?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, man, I got you." And so for the entire duration of the date, I would order drinks, and she would think I was drinking a vodka soda. She was drinking a red wine, and she was none the wiser, right? But I'll tell you, and so I got away with it. I did get away with it. She had no idea that I wasn't drinking. But I will say this, about a month later, after we'd started dating, we were at the Coachella Music Festival, and her friend, who I was hanging out with her at the same time, said, "Oh, James, I'll get you a beer. What kind of beer you want?" I said, "Oh, no, thanks. I've quit drinking." And Andrea said, "No, you haven't." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I have." And she said, "No, you were drinking on our first date when we were at the restaurant." And I'm like, actually, no, I was only drinking soda water." And she said, "What? So you like tricked me into thinking that you were drinking vodka soda?" I'm like, yeah, sorry. I felt a little bit uncomfortable about it. And she was so angry, Brian. I mean, she was pissed because I'd effectively misled her. I'd effectively lied to her. I'd effectively hidden something from her. And our relationship never recovered. And we ended up, splitting up not too long after, like a week or 10 days later. Thankfully, we're still very friendly. Years later, I can say, "Hey, how you doing?" She's like, "Great." But like, it just goes to show. I mean, you can trick people, but I would just say, why? It's better to just like be upfront about it and just have this attitude of like, "Yeah, I'm not drinking tonight. Yeah, I'm going to get drunk on this water or soda water tonight. I'm driving tomorrow. I got a big thing tomorrow. No, I'm good. I'm going to swing from the rafters and party like a rock star tonight, all while on this soda water." And just make light of the fact that you're not drinking. Because when people see that you don't care, they don't care. Yeah, I had the same. Like in the beginning, I would kind of, I guess I would lie about it and say like, "No, it's vodka, lime, and water." Or then I'd start offering to be the designated driver more often, which my friends didn't mind at all before Uber became really popular. But yeah, then I got to a point where I was like, no, I've actually stopped drinking. And again, like people were pretty chilled about it. I think they'd realized I'd slowed down, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And coming back to the going to bars and like going on dates and things, have you ever had people bring up something to the effect of like, "Well, you're staying sober and you're chatting to girls who are getting drunk"? Has that ever been something that's come up?
Well, look, first of all, I really dislike the word sober because it implies that I was once, had a drinking problem, and that I'm sober, which means, the opposite of sober is drunk, right? So I dislike that word immensely because I never was an alcoholic and I never felt like I had a drinking, what society would deem a drinking problem. So I rarely, or I just, try to eradicate the word sober. The other part of your question was sorry, Brian, could you repeat the question? I'm a bit lost.
Yeah, so I guess, like, has that ever been, you mentioned that Andrea got really mad that you hadn't told her you weren't drinking and she was. Oh, yeah. But has there ever been an issue of, like, I don't know, other friends calling you out, saying things like, well, you're not drinking and you're speaking to girls who are drinking, and it's kind of like, I don't know, almost like an easy target or whatever you want to call it.
Well, look, what I'll say is this: if you're asking a question about attracting women or the opposite sex or whatever, what I will say is this: is that the moment that I stopped drinking was the moment that I started attracting really elegant, very sophisticated, very beautiful, very well put together women into my life. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I didn't meet those women when I was drinking. I just didn't meet them as much. They were more like the unicorn rather than the norm. Gotcha. There's a saying, that like attracts like. Birds. What's the thing? Birds of a feather flock together, which means smokers hang out with smokers, right? Denver Broncos fans hang out with Denver Broncos fans. 20-somethings hang out with 20-somethings. Drinkers hang out with drinkers. Non-drinkers and people who are into healthy things and who look really good hang out with non-drinkers who are into healthy things and look really good. So if you are wanting to attract this, beautiful partner, whether it's a man or a woman, like attracts like. You have to be that person. You have to be the very person that you are wanting to attract. So if you want to hang out with a sloppy drunk, or you want to attract a woman who gets a bit drunk and vomits in the street, or she's put on some pounds and she's weathered in the face and she's a big sloppy mess, or if you're a woman listening to this and you want to attract a guy who's got a big beer belly and swears a bit and he's a bit loose and his words and actions don't align and sometimes he gets drunk and sometimes he does stupid things, then sure, just keep doing that. Hang out in those areas where those people hang out. But if you want high quality, you want sophisticated, elegant, put together, confident, strong in all areas, whether it's a man or a woman, then be that person. Be that person. And when you quit drinking, it's not just the quitting drinking, it's that you start to focus on other areas of your life. Because when you quit drinking, you get clarity. And when you get clarity, you start to do things like self-development or meditation, or you start to buy the right foods, or you start to not eat the Carl's Jr. burger or McDonald's on the way home. You just start to get into these other really positive, uplifting, and energetic activities.
Yeah, you save a ton of money that you can spend elsewhere.
Save a ton of money. And not only just save a ton of money, Brian, but you make a ton of money because you have clarity. And with clarity comes power. And with power comes happiness. And with happiness comes money, and with money becomes more happiness. So it's not just saving money, it's actually making money from redirecting your resources into money-making ventures.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So, James, I'd love to find out, you've obviously interviewed some pretty powerful people, and I always love hearing lessons learned along the way. So what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from the people that you've interviewed?
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed people like John Bon Jovi, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, Al Gore, the former vice president of the United States, Jack Nicholson, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll say the two interviews that stick out to me the most really was John Bon Jovi from the rock group Bon Jovi. And I've always been a big Bon Jovi fan from when I was a little kid. And,
Same.
There's so much to admire about him. He's not just some rock star, right? I'll tell you who he is. He's a rock star, but he has a wife that he's been married to for 22 years. He has 3 really healthy children. He gives to charity. He's created like a restaurant in New Jersey where if you can't afford to eat, you can eat for free, but then you just got to do the dishes afterwards. So it's kind of like a eat and work kind of thing. Like he's friendly with presidents. He's healthy. He works out a lot. He's 54, I think, years old now, and he does what he lives a great life. I mean, I really admire him. And I got to meet him and interview him on September 7th, 2010, in New York City, when he was promoting a new album called The Circle. And I had 20 minutes sit down with him. And, it was really inspiring just because, he shared with me, how he met his school sweetheart, Dorothea, who's his wife. And that really inspired me to want to do better in relationships. And then the charity part inspired me to want to help people a lot more. I was a bit selfish and not really giving away to charity at that point. And so there's much to admire about him. The other, another interesting interview I did was with Macaulay Culkin, who was the kid actor from the Home Alone movies.
Yeah.
That was a peculiar interview. I interviewed him because he's a very interesting guy. I mean, he was a child movie star at age 10. He divorced his parents legally when he was 18. I think he got a check for $20 million on his 18th birthday from all of the money that he made from Home Alone. He was a sort of like a has-been movie star later on in life, and then he sort of made a comeback with this movie called Saved in 2003 or 2004, I think it was. He dated Mila Kunis for like 5 years, who's now Ashton Kutcher's partner. And he just lived this amazing, amazing life as a child star, and then later on in life. Now he's a bit of a hot, sweaty mess at the moment, in the sense that he's very drawn out. If you Google his name, you can see images of him on the internet looking quite poorly and quite sickly. But when I interviewed him, he was so cool and interesting. He had so many interesting stories to tell. And he was just laid back. He was the kind of guy that you and I could sit around and just chat with for hours, Brian. You know, he was just one of the guys, one of the lads. And I just thought that was really interesting. You know, we just got along so well in the interview. And I just thought, you know what, there's such power in just being a cool person, just hanging out and being interested in the other person and just chatting versus having some kind of bravado and trying to impress someone. He wasn't trying to impress me. He was just like, you know, I am who I am. I've made some mistakes. Yeah. You're cool. Where are you from in Australia? Oh, tell me about it. That's cool. That's awesome. We just felt really connected. There's a lot of power to just being a good bloke, you know, just being easy to chat with and having good stories and being interested in the other person. So I really liked that interview as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Is there anything else, James, that we haven't mentioned you think might be worth bringing up for people listening?
Well, I mean, look, if you're listening now and you think that you want to take a break from alcohol, you can either do it yourself, and I go for it. I hope you do it. Or you can, you know, come over to 30daynoalcoholchallenge.com. I'll send you if you sign up and do the challenge, I'll send you a video every day for 30 days. So every morning you'll wake up and there'll be an email in your inbox with a video, and I'll give you a little tip on how you can not drink that day. You know, like it might say, hey, welcome to day 7 of the challenge. Here's what you say to your friends when they're encouraging you to have a drink tonight. Or here's what you say to yourself when you really want that drink. So I'll give you little tips. You'll go into a closed Facebook group as well with thousands of people around the world, and they're going to give you a lot of support. Change occurs amongst other people, Brian. Change occurs amongst other people. So whether you do it, my program, or whether you do it yourself, try to do it with other people. So, you know, if you're not going to do the 30-day no alcohol challenge, then just get 2 or 3 friends together and say, hey, you want to quit alcohol for 30 days and do it together, because it'll be a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And if you want to just, you know, find out more about me, you can just go to jamesswanwick.com, or I got the James Swanwick Show podcast, which has been around for about 4 years.
Yeah, and I'll link up to all of that in the show notes. Just before we wrap up here, James, I've got some sort of quickfire questions at the end. Yeah. The first one is, what do you wish you'd been told in your 20s?
I wish I'd been told in my 20s, learn about business and money and finance while you are backpacking and traveling the world.
What is the greatest opportunity for quarter lifers today?
Greatest opportunity is to start an online business. It's never been easier to start a business in the history of mankind. What was so tough 10 years ago is now super, super easy. This is the greatest moment in history for you to start a business and make money from the internet.
Yeah. We mentioned where people can get hold of you, so we don't need to go over that again. I'll link that all up. Before I get to the final question, James, I just want to take a second to acknowledge you for coming on today and sharing a bit about your story, but also the fact that, you know, you recognize that you weren't the person that you wanted to be, and you actually did something about that, and now you're helping other people do the same. So I think it's really cool how you're sort of paying it forward and turning something that you went into something positive for other people. The final question that I have is, what one thing can listeners do this week to start creating their own quarter life comeback?
Clarity equals power. So I would just literally sit down for 30 minutes with no distractions, no glass of water, don't shuffle in your seat, just switch everything off, and then write down what your outcome is. And whatever your outcome is, it might be a goal, a passion, and then just for 30 minutes brainstorm in complete silence and just write down whatever comes to mind. There's so much power in just creating a little 30-minute block of time with no distractions where you just think. And when you think, ideas will flow through you. You will write those down, and the way for you to get anything you want will be on that piece of paper.
That's powerful. James Swanwick, thank you so much for coming on the Quarter Life Comeback.
Brian, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
So there you have it, guys and girls. That wraps up episode 61 of the Quarter Life Comeback podcast. And a big thanks to James for coming on and sharing a bit about his story and his expertise when it comes to quitting alcohol. Now, if you're curious about quitting alcohol, or you know someone who might be interested in this episode, please share it around with them on social media and shoot me a tweet at Brian Tier to let me know your biggest takeaway. For me, it was the fact that you have to become the person you want to create. And I'd even add to that and say that you need to become the person who achieves the things that you want to achieve. And whether that has to do with dating or alcohol or anything else, I think once we have a vision of what we want to create, we need to become the person who can achieve that kind of vision. As always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at briantier.com/061. And make sure you subscribe at quarterlifecomeback.com to get all these episodes and even more goodness as soon as it comes out. Thanks once again for joining me this week, and until next time, keep creating your Quarter Life Comeback.
Thanks for listening to the Quarter Life Comeback. Get started today by visiting briantier.com.